All right. Thank you, Miss Selby, for joining me here.
Absolutely.
Just want to go through our next step. We just taught a lesson this morning, but just kind of to review, we had you had come to me with a concern about how engaged your students were,
Right.
whether or not you were really being effective with your questioning. So we talked about ways to get them engaged, our total participation techniques, really being effective with your questioning, and we found a checklist that we've been using that you've been implementing in class. And then, of course, I was coming in to kind of model, co-teach that with you.
Right.
And we were asking the questions of all the students and giving them think time, repeating, rephrasing, reducing, and reaching out to those students that we thought maybe just needed a little prompt, right? Okay, I'm going to come to you next. I'm going to come to you next. Remember, I want you to have the thought in your head.
Right.
So reaching out and kind of making sure those students were prepared for those questions. Even celebrating those mistakes, right? Making sure that even when we fail, we can build on that. We can think past that. Avoid giving those answers straight away. Providing sufficient wait time. And I think that part, that's really, really going great. And then encouraging that wrap, those answering and responding in complete sentences, restating the question, answering it, providing your proof. And that was kind of our next step. This past time was kind of encouraging and pushing those complete sentences and those complete responses. So with all that in mind, given what we did today, what do you think is the most important thing for us to talk about, and what really is on your mind where we are with this strategy?
I definitely think that like the hand signals are working really well, and that kind of like when we talked about repeating the question. We worked on that today, and we've been working on that. I think that's really I think that's really been helping them to kind of like at first they're like, what's the question? But then when you're repeating it, they're really being able to think that through. I think kind of the biggest thing maybe for today is the wrap strategy and just continuing. It's definitely been working, but I think it can be like enhancing that more and just kind of encouraging that even further.
Okay.
So
you do think that the hand signals, the participation is going well. You see that the majority of your students are responding to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of helps them too, that they know like if they have their thumb here and that they're ready to share, that is going to allow me to call on them to say that you're going to speak. It's not just you raise your hands, because sometimes they don't want to do that. Right. But if they have what they're ready to share, then they are going to be expected to share that. Right. And I think it's been good to have that I agree as well, to also make them not only participate and be listening and actively listening, but then reflect on what other people are saying and reflect on what they were thinking.
I hadn't thought about that, but
exactly. Right. Just to kind of to give them a little bit more to think about, like as we're having those discussions.
So nice. What are you seeing that shows that strategy, that repeating that sufficient wait time, that even reaching out to those students, what are you seeing that shows it's actually working in your class?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they've all definitely picked up on the hand signals. So like they know what they're doing. They know that that's working. I think too that I have more participation, particularly from some of those ESOL students that were really quiet.
That was your goal.
Yeah. So that has been really huge, and just being sure that I am, and I've kind of worked with like we talked about, conferencing them with them like a little bit and saying, okay, when they have a turn and talk moment, I'll let them work for a few minutes, but then go to those specific students and say, okay, what was this? Repeating the question again and kind of having that conversation with them. And then they, we kind of have a shared understanding of like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'll say, oh, I really like that. And so then that has kind of encouraged them.
Are you willing to share this?
Right,
are you ready to talk out about this in class?
Yeah. And like I said, I think with them understanding that if they have their thumb and they're ready to share, that again, that I'm going to expect them to share. So they know that if they're here, then they're going to be able to speak and share that, which is really nice.
So what has surprised you?
I think kind of like I said, that some of my quietest students in the classroom, like really quiet, even in small groups, have started speaking whole group, and that is huge. Yeah. So just the fact that they're willing and they have that more confidence that we've been talking about too, to share their ideas has been surprising because I didn't know. I was like, hey, we're going to talk this year? Like, let's, right. So I'm really happy that worked really well for them.
What roadblocks are you still running into, do you think, in your class?
Yeah, I think kind of like what I mentioned with the, like with complete sentences. I know that, if I specifically stress it and say, okay, like you're going to say, sometimes when I give them the wait time or like when I ask the question, I'll say, okay, when you answer, you need to say, I think this, blank, because blank. And I think when I'm explicit, they understand that, but I think the struggle is using that consistently.
So what I'm hearing is while the hand signals have become natural,
yes,
that's a comfort level. You're still having to be very explicit with the directions about a complete sentence, and that's not yet normal. That's not yet their
a given
comfort
type of thing. Right.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the idea of using the questions effectively for your students and the checklist that we came up with and that we added, do you want to keep using this strategy as it is?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to still use the hand signals and to still be focusing on
the wait time.
Yeah, the wait time. The repeating has also been really, really beneficial, I think, for a lot of my students. And to rephrase it and to say, okay, asking those questions in different ways.
Right. Well, remember, we're talking about the main idea. So what I'm asking is, what do you think is the most important?
Right.
You're just yes.
Well, and like today, like with Tamachichi, we were talking about, like, okay, what was the main idea of Tamachichi? Okay. Some of them are like, yeah, okay. And then, okay, but why was Tamachichi important? What did we learn about him that we should remember? Just being able to rephrase those things, I think that really got some more of them able to kind of focus
absolutely. I completely agree with that. And yes, you did really well making sure that they were all understanding that part of the
what
lesson.
We're working on.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So do you want to revisit how you use the teaching strategy?
Maybe I think kind of working more on like encouraging them to like.
Well, I heard you giving those sentence stems. Right?
Yeah. But also like I don't know. Like I don't want to say like making a bigger deal like when they use a complete sentence, but just getting them to understand that complete sentences need to become more of the norm. You know, that's not something that we're just on this one answer we're going to use a complete sentence. So then on the next one we'll just say in one word.
And we see this too, even in their writing, right? If they are able to answer you in a complete sentence, chances are their writing is going to be more developed and more in a complete sentence. So while you're focusing on it just in the verbal, especially with your ESOL and our EIP babies, right? We can pull that in and say, okay, if you're answering this question, it's not just a one-word answer. How would you write this? Tell it to me verbally in a complete sentence. Now let's write that in a complete sentence.
Yeah.
So there's so many ways that can impact and improve with our students.
Yeah, and I think too with that, I mean, I know you weren't in there for writing, and we haven't really talked about writing a whole lot. But when we're working on our scripts for our videos, we talked about that today. I was like, because they're writing like the location, and I had sentence stems for my EIP, but with some, with my higher kids, I let them kind of write it on their own. And so I was like, okay, you remember we need to have complete sentences because you're going to be speaking, like you are going to be standing and speaking in the video. And so I'm like, what if you just said between Atlantic Ocean and Piedmont? Like, does that make any sense? And they were like, no. Oh, right. No. So I think that has to, and no, but I really truthfully, like, they were doing pretty well. There were a few groups that I need to kind of work with that on, but I do think they're starting to get there because I did see, once I kind of talked about that, I was like, hey, you need to be using complete sentence, right? Once we talked about that, they started to really click with that.
But even like you said, being able to connect it with, remember when we answer the questions, in our mini lesson or whatever, we're making sure we're talking about those complete sentences. I think making those connections and having those teacher moments is huge. It's so important.
And I think maybe that's what I kind of need to do with the speaking to work those complete sentences into speaking, is to kind of talk about it more from a writing perspective and say, okay, remember for our scripts for right now, since that's what we're working on, are we going to just say leader? Yeah, just adding that extra in.
So do you want to use do you want to choose a new strategy, or are you happy with the one that you have here?
I mean, I really like the checklist that we have. I think that's really, really beneficial.
Okay. What about a goal then? Do you want to change the goal, since it does seem like you've seen success with the participation from your quieter students? Do you want to try to change the goal of our strategy? Or do you feel like still building on it and giving them that confidence a little longer?
Yeah, I think maybe just kind of building on it and then really celebrating and really stressing the complete sentences all the time.
Which was kind of, the addition that you wanted to make to the checklist. So I know that's very important to you. So,
yeah.
Okay. So not really even changing the strategy or the goal, just giving them more time to really for it to really develop.
Yeah, because I think there are certain aspects of it, like I said, like the hand signals are working really well, and conferencing with them, rephrasing is working really well. But I do think that we could still improve on complete sentences, and truthfully, with that, I mean, not that we didn't necessarily have this included specifically, but like just speaking up, and truly being able to hear them.
That before, the confidence aspect of
take
a deep breath and own it.
Right. Well, yeah, it's like this morning. Like sometimes they're like, they have great answers, but then I'm like, okay, what? Nice and loud. Like I can't. What did you say? Because I don't know.
Right.
So just working on that.
Okay. So let's give it just a little bit longer. When do you think we should meet again? So I was in there today.
Right.
And I know some things are going to be busy. We're coming up with lots of interruptions.
Holidays, things like that.
Yeah. When do you want to try to meet again, just to touch base to see if you think?
Yeah, kind of like how things are going. Yeah. Maybe like after Thanksgiving, probably.
Okay.
Like sometime like December, like get us into the swing of things.
Because you got to reach right.
Right. Got to regroup there. But yeah, maybe like sometime then to just kind of see where things are going and what we can do. Yeah.
So what tasks will have to be done before we meet again? So I think, like you were saying, maybe the wrap strategy, that complete sentence. Is there going to be, I've brought up the idea before of smart beads.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of pushing that as almost like a celebration, right?
Yeah.
Saying, you know what, you did that answer. It was so great. It was so complete. You did it with confidence, and you spoke in a complete sentence without me prompting you. Here's your smart bead. Just kind of as that celebration.
Yeah. I think that would be really, really good for my students and I think maybe if I use the smart beads specifically for that, like not just for, right, exactly. Not just for like, oh, that was a great idea. Cause we have a little mascot that comes and sits on your desk when you have a great idea. But maybe like using those specifically for like you answered in a complete sentence and confidently. Yeah. And that can be, I think that would be really, really beneficial for them.
I have some, and I can give those to you. And then maybe you build up the anticipation a little bit.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And you're like, okay, so after Thanksgiving, something exciting is gonna come for those students who've been really diligent about participating completely, about answering those questions in complete sentences, about doing all those things. I have something special for you guys.
Yeah.
You'll be excited about it.
Yeah.
You can kind of build it up that way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So they can have that to be like, oh, what is it gonna be?
Yes. Yeah. So with that in mind, I guess we kind of already answered this.
Yeah,
Who will do that?
Right.
Who will do that?
I will do it.
Yeah. And then, so my last question was, with this action plan, the next step, on a scale of 1 to 5, how committed are you to this goal?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm at a 5. Like, I feel really good that things have been working in our class, and I've seen improvements. And so, I mean, I want to work on the smart beads and add that aspect into it and continue to work on that, because I really have seen a change in some of those students that have been so quiet at the beginning of the year, and and sometimes when they have those really good like high participation days, I'll say like, hey, like, I love how much you participated today. And so just like I think that's really built some of their confidence, and like I definitely think that.
And kudos to you for making sure that you are building that confidence and celebrating even those small little victories, like, hey, you know what? I saw your finger go. You were so excited and you did so well sharing. And even if it's just once for that one student who has never spoken in class, the fact that you're pulling them aside and you're celebrating that I think is going to be what gets you seeing that continued success in your classroom.
Yeah.
So
that's why
good work.
Yeah, that's why I think I really want to incorporate kind of more of those little
just
victory
little
type of
kudos.
things.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those little
absolutely.
kind of moments.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I just think because, you know, we've talked about it and it's really geared towards my class and what, you know, my kids need. And
Yes.
so,
Well, that's
I'm
the key,
excited.
right? Making sure that we get our students what they need.
Right.
So, and I will totally, not that it's asking for my opinion, but I definitely think you're a 5 too, that you've been very diligent about committing to this and helping me with this coaching. So I appreciate your help.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.